let's do this Naxx Prio guide. So we are going to go through every single item in Naxx, or everything off of every boss. We're going to go over the trash. We're going to go through the tier 3 sets. And this is basically going to be focused between mostly the melee classes, warriors, and rogues, and where things kind of advantage more or have a better advantage. We're also going to look at hunters. And I guess... So I'm also going to talk about feral. I probably will do a guide also, or a breakdown going over all of the other classes, which is all of the healers and the casters as well, if there seems to be enough interest in something like that. I'm going to lower the volume a little bit more. And this video will go up on YouTube, so the guys watching it live right now, welcome to the stream. Everyone who's here, Frost Live, thank you for the host. And I'm sure you've done a mage BiS list, or if not, everyone keep your eyes out for a mage BiS list there. But we're going to go over all of the BiS gear for these specs or these classes, what's really better for your raid overall, and kind of all of the loot. Like, Naxx is actually insane, where there is casually really incredible loot and like massive upgrades for every class. Although some classes benefit from different things more, which we're going to get into potentially first. That's actually a good point. First, we're going to talk about the tier 3 sets. Okay. So a caveat before I even get into that is that nothing is a pure 1-for-1 loot prio within Naxx. Like, if something is better for one class, it doesn't actually mean that this class should absolutely get it. And the reasoning for this is mostly because Classic's almost over, guys. They're gonna announce Classic TBC for them most likely, but Classic is almost over. This is the last raid, and people, of course, have been burnt out. They announced a very rushed release of Naxx, which probably also coincides with people being burnt out. So there are going to be some people that you give an item to, like Kiss of the Spider, that it may not be the biggest upgrade for your entire raid. It's just, you know, this person's been waiting forever for a trinket upgrade and stuff like that. So with pretty much everything that we talk about today, there's always that caveat. Some people, I mean, trying to get both of the swords off KT is pretty insane, but it might happen. Gressel's drop chance is like 5%, so good luck. But things like that, right? So you're going to see a lot of people going for all of these BiS items, but there are different breakdowns. I said that's so weird. There's different breakdowns of why somebody gets loot other than just it being BiS or not. And other than it being better for this class than the other. So with that being said, we're going to start with tier 3 and trash, and then we'll go through all of the bosses. So first of all, tier 3. Elephant in the room. This beautiful, beautiful set, possibly aesthetically the best looking set in all of World of Warcraft Classic, other than the mage set, which looks terrible on an orc. Dreadnought battle gear. Unfortunately, this was all BiS back in the day, of course, because we played Deep Prot. Look at all of the gear. It is a hard mitigation set. A hard mitigation set. Basically focused on being Deep Prot. We will see in almost every speedrun guild, pretty consistently, almost nobody wearing any of this gear, although there is one specific instance, right? And that is the 4-piece set bonus. The 4-piece set bonus improves your chance to hit taunt and challenging shout by 5%, which is obviously massively useful for the for the 4 horsemen encounter, because missing taunts is going to mess you up. The idea out in the world, or the idea that has been out since private servers and since original classic, is that you need to have 8 warriors with the 4-piece set bonus. 8 warriors with the 4-piece set bonus. And keep in mind, rogues do share this gear token with warriors. Every single warrior in the entire game that is making that argument should go and farm this. It is so easy to, it drops 40% of the time almost off of the fish boss in ZG. It is a super easy boss, increases your spell hit by 10% for 15 seconds, and the cooldown's only 1 minute and 15 seconds. If anyone is out there in your guild saying that warriors need to have this 4-set bonus, I think you need to show your loot master or your GMs or your loot council or whoever's in your DKP system, or even that person, because if they're going out here spending all of their DKP on the Dreadnought gear, other than for RP or hard mitigation, which can be useful. There are times where you want hard mitigation. Some bosses hit incredibly hard, but that's only like 1 or 2 people that need that ever. We will almost consistently see very few, if any, warriors using this set. It can be super useful on your main tank on Lotheb. Yes, super useful on your main tank on Lotheb because the hard mitigation. And that is, for the most part, I would honestly say, and there's going to be like potentially some backlash. Some warriors are going to be frustrated and saying, you need this extra 5% hit to make sure that you don't get resisted. Even having the real, there is a chance of getting resisted. You don't. Look at the stats on some of the pieces. The wrists, I mean, losing out on some of the hit or something from other BiS bracers, like, is whatever, but you're also losing on the crit. Your threat, warriors in general scale so well, especially in Naxx, and so stats wise, everyone is going to be doing more damage. And if you gimp your threat with mitigation gear in a speed run, you're probably going to see issues, and you're not going to see most speedrun guilds almost ever running this. So the idea to prio 8 warriors tier 2 or tier 3 right off the bat, I think is something that we will almost never see. Although we may see a main tank getting the 4 pieces that they want. We may see an off tank as well getting 4 pieces, but it is a massive waste. I will say this. They're very rarely going to use it other than your main tank, because you're sitting there with Lotheb and you want Lotheb just to be a cakewalk. Let's be honest. You would like for Lotheb to be a cakewalk? Yeah. Okay. That being said, we also see the set bonus from rogues, right? We also see the set bonus from rogues. Rogues want to be running 8 of 9 Bone Scythe. It is absolutely their BiS gear set. Rogues want to run 8 of 9 pieces. So all of your rogues are trying to get all of these pieces. The only piece they don't want is the belt. And the funny part is also the belt for warriors is pretty garbo. So that's like the piece they're like, oh, we're not fighting for this. So rogues absolutely want their set. Hunters as well absolutely want their set. I think it's the belt that they don't run as well. Potentially they do run the belt. Hunters absolutely want their set. Rogues absolutely want their set. Warriors are out here just being meme edgelords, holding on to the past if they are saying that they need their Dreadnought set. Anyone past your main tank, potentially your main off tank for like certain situations. Rank 12 gloves, BiS for hunters. Okay, yeah, so you run the rest of it and just use the better gloves. Easy, guys, easy. Every rogue is using the belt off of Cthulhu. Every rogue is using the belt off of Cthulhu. But the Bone Scythe set is pretty incredible. You also get a lot of mitigation or healing with the 2-piece. Just heals yourself up. You get a reduction in energy on all of your main abilities for the most part. And your eviscerates can add another crit chance to your backstabs or your sinister strike or Hemo if you're just like again, a meme lord. Don't be a meme lord. Let me lower that again. Hunters gain like an adrenaline rush. You get a little bit of mana. Mana regen is nice. You can actually use like an MP5 enchant on your wrists potentially, because the other better enchants 1 agility, which is what, 2 attack power and a little bit of crit. Not really that big, but having the MP5 here, because you're no longer using like mana oils on your weapon, so hunters can do that. They get a lot of mana mitigation. Bone Scythe is great. If you're non-crit capped, or sorry, if you don't have world buffs, there's things you can swap, and we'll get into that as well. So that is what I want to mention about the tier pieces between warriors, rogues, and I say this, of course, I am currently a rogue main, but I'm now outputting more damage on my warrior already. So warriors are the best class in the game. They have incredible mitigation in other pieces. Tier 2.5 is insane for like Fury tanks or Fury Prot. So don't even like... If your guild it has this idea that you need to give a 4-piece set bonus to 4 of your warriors, or 8 warriors, and they haven't farmed real, then why I don't know why they would deserve this in general. But I don't really... To each his own. To each guild their own. But that's, for the most part, a mistake when you can increase the DPS of a guild pretty quickly. Also, there are specific pieces that are much bigger upgrades than others. Like the helm is like the biggest upgrade in here, which I do have a loot prio guide for rogues themselves where I break down exactly how much DPS increase each one of these pieces is. But it could potentially be viable to prioritize quite a few pieces of the set to one person at a time almost, which could be a little frustrating for other people in the guild, right? But like, you're instantly then breaking all of your tier 2 by having people ready with all of their stuff to buy these pieces. So you do want your people, like someone that has all of their like mats ready, potentially to get all of the pieces they need or want right away. It will be an upgrade for the group in general, because breaking the tier 2 set or 2.5 bonus, especially as a sword rogue, is large. You need actually quite a few pieces before you actually break the tier 2.5 set bonus. So make sure everyone knows that also with your priority going out. If you're slowly but surely like handing one piece to everybody to appease them, it's not like most people aren't going to be able to use one piece right away. Okay, going from there, let's look at the trash gear. And the interesting thing here, guys, yeah, you need to wait until you have the 4 set from tier 3. You need to wait, or you could have 2 of the biggest pieces could break your tier 2.5 anyways. 2 of the biggest pieces could break your tier 2.5. But as a rogue. But all right, looking at the trash gear, the biggest thing in here from the trash for all of us melee, and this is for every melee. This is for rogues. This is for your edge masters, warriors, or your dagger warriors. Harbinger of Doom. This weapon is actually insanely good. This is going to be an upgrade for almost everyone. Your warriors can use it as an upgrade from using the Pugio. If you have like warriors are running CTS Pugio, your dagger rogues can upgrade it from their Pugio as well. And your hunters, this is actually one of, it's almost BiS. Technically it's not BiS. Hunters are using like King's Fall, but good luck being a hunter and arguing that you deserve King's Fall over a rogue or even your main tank or a dagger warrior. Harbinger of Doom. The interesting or the good thing about the trash loot is that it is totally farmable. The drop rates are kind of garbage, which is a little unfortunate, but it is extremely, extremely farmable. Just have a mage buddy go in there and you can just crush it. The next thing that is super massive is Ghoulskin Tunic. Ghoulskin Tunic is actually technically BiS DPS output for warriors. Ever so slightly BiS DPS output for warriors. And with these things all being farmable, if you guys don't have one mage that's just... Because your mages should be out here farming Ring of Eternal Flame, and you can just go in there and AFK in their group all you want. Very, very chill. Get yourself a Ghoulskin Tunic. This thing is insane. And then, of course, there is Misplaced Servo Arm. There is Stygian Buckler. Ugh. Misplaced Servo Arm. It's hard to tell exactly how good this is because Sims don't have perfect proc rate chances of this just yet, but it seems to be procking incredibly high. For human rogues, for human warriors, also human rogues, humans could use this and have an insane boost. Actually, if we look at like, all right, let's look at warriors. From the Fight Club Discord, look at warriors BiS. This is your third BiS weapon, right? Third BiS weapon. It's better than CTS. Gressel is obviously the biggest item for anyone, but it is your third BiS weapon. A lot of warriors, every warrior on Alliance side that's human, should just sit in some runs with mages. Human warriors should get Prio this over your rogues. Most warriors may want to get Prio this over your rogues, except for if you're not human. Yeah. If you're not human, you're not going to be using this anyways. So your rogues can go after Misplaced Servo Arm. Without the exact proc rate, we can't really tell exactly how good this is. But as a rogue, you do have the talent in mace skill to get an improved mace specialization. So basically, like, you get your mace skill. You get 5 mace skill as a rogue if you're running mace spec, combat mace spec. So make sure that you do run this. And before anyone like on YouTube memes that this isn't the perfect Seal Fate spec, I'm actually not improved exposed armor tonight, so I'm memed around and have 2 more points in improved poisons. We are doing a meme raid tonight. But so if you're not human, rogues should probably get that, because Edge Masters don't do anything for you for the maces. So if you're not human, rogues should get it. And a lot of warriors are probably going to get Prio'd Harbinger of Doom. I think this is equal Prio between rogues or warriors and rogues if you're an edgy warrior. Unfortunately, hunters have significantly less output on DPS in the raid overall, no matter what. So getting a main hand or an offhand weapon doesn't also increase their DPS by too much. So ideally, this would be Prio to your rogues first, and then to your warriors that are edgies, because there's a lot of other good things for edgy warriors. And then if you're a human, your warriors are getting MSA. And if you're not, your rogues are probably getting MSA faster. Those are the 2 or the 3 big items off of trash with Ghoulskin Tunic, which again, if we look at the Fight Club Discord, Ghoulskin Tunic, it's on here one below Plated Abomination Ribcage. Actually, it's a slight DPS output higher, but Plated A-Bomb Ribcage gives you like 530 more armor or something like that. So everyone in speedruns, almost every warrior is going to prio the Ribcage. But for right away, like, you can just farm trash, sit in there and just get a Ghoulskin Tunic. Yeah, it's an upgrade. So might as well go for that. All right. Now moving on to all of the bosses. All of the bosses. We have mentioned the tier gear between warriors and rogues. We've mentioned the tier gear between warriors and rogues. Although the Dreadnought Bracers are one of the pieces that, like, warriors don't mind swapping out for this mitigation for their set bonus. I would almost always suggest getting your rogues this gear for, other than your tank, as I mentioned, like your main tank, potentially one of your main off tanks. But there's very, very little benefit to your raid by giving Dreadnought Bracers out in general. And it's not like guilds have an incredible amount of rogues, but these are going to drop like so often that you're going to get set up pretty quickly, and you're only fighting between 2 classes. It's a much bigger benefit for the raid overall to give it to your rogues first, other than your main tank, of course. Pop on that main tank, get them decked out for Lotheb so you have no issues there, then go with the rogue. Basic Pro Child, thank you for the Twitch Prime, man. Welcome to the stream. Appreciate it a ton. Moving on. Cryptfiend Silk Cloak is a pretty decent mitigation cloak, and it gives you 1 hit. So if you're going like hard mitigation, this is pretty decent. Wrist Guards of Vengeance are BiS. Your warriors are all looking out to get this. This is BiS. This is an upgrade from the AQ bracers, so all of your warriors do want to get this. Good luck, guys, because you guys are going to fight for it. It's not like a huge upgrade, though. And I can even go over like which items are the biggest upgrades for warriors if people want. And then there's nothing else you're really worried about here. Touch of Frost. I'm not really going to go too deep into if we're going to need Frost Res gear for Saffron. It's always safe to have. It's always safe to have like some guilds and some people are running Nature Res gear for Huhuron. It's always safe to have, and Saffron's not as easy as a fight as Huhuron. So if everyone thinks it's going to be just as much of a joke, I think we're up for a decent awakening. But if I don't know if we're going to fully need massive Frost Res sets, it's TBC. But you do want this to be going out. Grand Widow Faralina. Look at this bad boy. Widow's Remorse. Now this is not BiS for anyone, warriors or rogues. So, how this should go out is an interesting one. Your human warriors can absolutely go after this, and then all of your sword rogues can go after this because it's going to be very hard to get double KT swords. So this is actually a pretty insane weapon. 62.8 DPS. It does give 100 armor, so it's like incredible for mitigation. Your main tank may want this for his mitigation set, or in general, your main tank may actually want this because he might not be getting Hunger and Cold right away. So your main tank might want this, or he might not even have Thunder Fury, right? So you may see some tanks get this first, but everyone that is underestimating how good this weapon is, don't. All of the weapons in Naxx are pretty insane. So sword rogues can be looking at this as well as your sword warriors. And some warriors are just going after like Hunger and Cold and then trying to get Gressel. They will be looking more towards Iblis. This is going to be kind of the sleeper, right? Most people are not trying to get this at all. Most people are thinking between this, or most people are thinking KT Weps and Iblis. That's like the only weapons on most warriors and rogues' minds in the sword category. So Widow's Remorse is pretty much a free pickup. And 1 chance to hit is very nice. It's got a fast attack speed. It is good mitigation as well, so you like will survive quite a bit. That's all I really have to say about it. Just make sure you know that this has some pretty good mitigation, and it's not like a pretty shit item. Excuse my language. I probably shouldn't have said that. Nick Tricks, thank you for the follow, man. Polar shoulder pads, easy drop, easy frost res. Honestly, this can fight between rogues and warriors, but warriors all have the chance to just get Icebane. Icebane is incredible frost res, so make sure you are looking out for Icebane. There's no reason not to get the frost resistance gear and just be prepared. So if it drops, I wouldn't try to like lose prio on an actual upgrade by taking this, but you can get this for like almost next to nothing DKP, or your warriors can just roll this out, or it can go to a tank. it's going to be interesting to see how much Frost Res we need. Moving on to Myexna. Boom, Myexna's Fang. I know all of you are thinking, oh, there's one insane item off of Myexna. Yes, there is. Myexna's Fang is an incredible dagger that for rogues, if we pull up, I mean, it's good for warriors too. If we look at our dagger lists, right? Myexna's Fang is only behind Death Sting as a main hand. So if you don't have Death Sting yet, this is your best main hand. You're more so looking out for Harbinger of Doom because it is an upgrade in your main hand, even over a Pugio, and then it's so good in your offhand. It's like, other than when you get King's Fall, Death Sting, Harbinger of Doom is like your item. But if you don't have a Death Sting, which we don't, dang it, you absolutely are looking at getting Myexna's Fang. It is going to be, if you're using Purds, it'd be a 44 DPS, almost 45 DPS increase to your main hand. It is also a pretty good increase to your offhand. It's still better than Pugio also. So either of these weapons, Harbinger of Doom or Myexna's Fang, are increases of DPS to your offhand and main hand. Harbinger of Doom should be more in demand. Should absolutely be more in demand. So make sure you're looking out for Harbinger of Doom. But Myexna's Fang is a good main hand. If you don't have Death Sting, if you do have Death Sting, it's still like an upgrade in your offhand even. So don't forget about this weapon. It's a very strong, solid weapon. 141 top end, 65.3 DPS, 1.8 speed. So it's not like, it's one of those slower daggers. 36 attack power in one hit. And you get some stam. Warriors are also potentially going to be looking out for this, but this is more of a rogue item. You could see some hunters going out after this. And then we have the big one. Kiss of the Spider. Kiss of the Spider, guys. This is the biggest trinket in the game. This is the god trinket for everyone. Currently, the warrior sims are showing it as less advantageous as Slayer's Crest, apparently. But Fight Club even like has done their own sims outside of like the warrior online sim that is saying Kiss of the Spider is the best. Now, this is the hardest. This is going to be one of those items that is one of the hardest things to prioritize in the game. Your hunters are looking at this. Your feral druid. Oh, if you have a feral tank, this is the only thing he like cares about in his life. He's the most stoked person ever to try to get Kiss of the Spider. Your rogues. This is, outside of the weapons, the biggest singular DPS increase in this entire raid. If I go back to the sheet and we look at phase 6 increases, Kiss of the Spider is a 31 DPS increase. And Slayer's Crest is about a 21. That's as daggers as swords. It is a Kiss of the Spider is 27 almost, and Slayer's Crest is about 22. Also on longer fights, we'll talk about Mark of the Champion. Mark of the Champion is incredible. The passive trinket, basically that you get off of Cthulhu, that gives you 150 attack power. That thing is nuts. It's actually nuts. And there's only 2 fights in here that are not undead. Kiss of the Spider. 1 hit, 1 crit, 20% attack speed for 15 seconds. Now, this is your rogue's best item. This is your feral tank or feral druid's best item in here, especially for threat. It is insane for them. Warriors. Rogues are a different class because we have a static resource regeneration time, right? If we have Kiss of the Spider, we're not actually regenning our energy any faster. It doesn't help us with that. Although rogues do about 60% on average DPS, or 60% of their overall damage is usually from auto attacks, so from melees. So this increases that significantly. Warriors, however, if they attack faster, and you'll notice, because like if you ever see the difference between a warrior having War Chief's Blessing and a warrior not have War Chief's Blessing, it's like an infinite rage. This combined with an execute phase on a warrior is actually going to be kind of ungodly. So as a rogue main myself, I would love to say that this item, even though it is the best DPS upgrade outside of the weapons in this entire raid, I would love to say that this should go to rogues. Unfortunately, this should scale better on warriors, and the warrior sims I can say I think will be updated, showing how incredible this is. But even if those aren't updated, this combined with an execute phase on a warrior, with your death wish up, with your badge of the swarm guard, if on some fights, with your mark of the champion with 150 extra attack power, which is literally a static. This is basically like having diamond flask up at all times. This is just so good. This is, for every class, the best trinket in the game for the most part. So I would argue very easily that warriors should be getting Kiss of the Spider. And we'll get into Slayer's Crest. I believe that rogues should then get prioed Slayer's Crest. Unless it depends on what your guild system is, your loot system. But this can just scale so well with warriors and rage generation. Although this is, again, the biggest DPS increase for rogues. And then, of course, that brings us to hunters and feral druids. I don't see any world where you can realistically justify giving Kiss of the Spider to a hunter. And if Arrow's just saying stop. Yeah, exactly. I don't see a world other than, like I mentioned at the beginning, basically, you know how a lot of people are like they haven't gotten a new upgrade in forever. This is the item they're looking for. They haven't got an upgrade in forever. I guess it depends on like what your guild loot system is. But if your guild is a very serious guild, there is no way that this is going to a hunter or feral. This actually could go to your main tank as well first, because the attack speed at the beginning of the fight could just massively increase rage generation, which would increase threat. So it could easily, in some of the best guilds, be prio to a main tank first. Easily, which then also means these feral druids. What if you have a feral main tank? Yeah. So shift left click on the Atlas loot icon to uncheck show content phase. Show content phase indicators. Oh God, that is the ugliest thing ever. There we go. All right, Kiss of the Spider. Kiss of the Spider. All right. There we go. We're leaving it there, right? We're leaving it there. Again, this is the one piece that both, like, rogues don't care about, because you have the Belt off of Cthulhu. Although these stats are pretty nice, so, like, for PvP, yeah, whatever. This is a hard mitigation belt, so it's going to be hard for a warrior to want it unless you have an actual prot warrior. But it could just go towards your... It could go towards your 4-piece set bonus, but the belt, the mitigation belt in AQ is actually better for a mitigation tank than this Dreadnought piece. So even as your hard mitigation tank is actually not using this. Like if we even in Fight Club even has it, if my internet works, there we go. If we look at your hard mitigation tanks, where are you, belt? Here we go. Girdle of the Mentor is for threat. Royal Karaji belt if you're in a hard mitigation tank. So this is like a free piece. Whoever wants it, take it. If you don't have Belt of Never-Ending Agony yet, you can take it. If you don't have Onslaught, but you're like, this is just the ugliest piece, and it's unfortunate that it's not good for either of the specs. Cloak of the Scourge. This thing is very impressive. 30 attack power and 1% hit. Although it's not really going to be BiS for anyone. You could use it with your mitigation set, but everyone's looking for Shroud of Dominion. Hunters could take it. You could give it to a hunter. So just give it to your hunters. Moving on, this is just another Frost Res ring. Not a big deal. Hatchet of the Sundering Bone. This thing is insane. Okay, for Horde. For Horde, you are just loving this. And all of your Edgemaster wares. If you're an edgy wearer, this is your main hand you're going for. Like, get out of here trying to go after Hungry and Cold and King's Fall, even though, yeah, you should be going after those. Hatchet of the Sundered Bone is amazing. 65.4 DPS, 221 top end, 36 attack power, and 1 crit. This is great for warriors. All of your orc warriors are going for this in the main hand with Kroll Shruk in their offhand. Although technically they do still want these swords. These swords, KT swords, are BiS, even above this. But they should be realistic. Not everyone's going to... Very few people are going to get both KT swords. I genuinely believe every orc warrior should be focused on getting this hatchet and rogues potentially for the swords, even though warriors are king and warriors do more damage. But Hatchet of the Sunderbone is insane. Moving straight on. Leg Plates of Carnage are BiS for your warriors. BiS for your warriors. And then we have another piece of our Frost Res gear, which I think the Frost Res set actually looks pretty dope, not going to lie. Leg Plates of Carnage, all of your warriors want this, although it's not that big of a DPS increase. Over 2.5, and like, your warriors all are going for this. Hunter weapon, oh, yeah, I guess also hunters, do you want hatchet? On Alliance side, you could give this to your hunters, although it should be prioed to... I feel bad for hunters, but like your job technically is usually to be the puller. Even though Hatchet and King's Fall are BiS, and like I mentioned, hunters also could just go after Harbinger of Doom, which is almost exactly same output. Or hunters could even go after the offhand off Saf as well. We'll talk about that. This thing is insane. Your Edgemasters warriors should be getting this first, most likely. Warriors just do so much damage. Hagen, we're just looking at this basically for warriors. Again, we have the belt. Nobody's worried about that. Hunters do like their tier gear. Moving on to Lotheb, we have the pants, which are one of the better upgrades for rogues. Again, hard mitigation for warriors. Other than your main tank, these should pretty much just go to rogues. Band of Unnatural Forces. This is the next big item that we have, guys. Band of Unnatural Forces. This is for warriors and rogues. Outside of trinkets and the weapons, this is the biggest upgrade in this entire dungeon. Hunters actually don't really try to compete for this because there is another ring that they're using. Warriors versus rogues. This one, you can't really argue either way. Warriors do more damage overall. It should kind of be prioritized to who are your big pumpers in the raid. The drop rate is decently low, and there's a lot of people going for it. This is extremely high prio for everyone. Extremely high prio for everyone. If you are not looking to get the Band of Unnatural Forces, it is a massive mistake. Let me make sure that this is... Okay, perfect. This... You can't really argue one way or the other. Most likely, it should go to your best pumping warriors first, or actually your main tank could take it first, and then your big pumpers. Although there's no stamina, right? It just adds a crazy amount of threat for him. There's no, pretty perfect for my feral. Okay, ferals are fighting for this too. There's no stamina here, so if your main tank's taking this, it's pure threat gen, and you're not gonna see issues with threat gen at this point. You know, And there's no agility here either. So, yeah. Rogues and warriors are fighting. I guess your feral is technically fighting as well. I would say that this could even be split up in a way that you give one to a warrior first, and then one to a rogue, one to a warrior, one to a rogue. I would prioritize, ideally, your best of each class. Because there's always going to be like a significant amount of warriors that are above most of your rogues, but almost every guild has one rogue that's probably doing as much damage as the top warriors, or almost. There's like 2 warriors usually above one rogue. And if you look at the logs of like every speedrun guild, you'll see that as well a lot. Instructor Vesuvius. Girdle of the Mentor. This is the first time that you upgrade from Onslaught Girdle. Congratulations, guys. You finally upgrade from Onslaught Girdle. So that's pretty easy. That's a warrior. Prio. Signet Ring of the Fallen Defender. Hard mitigation. Almost nobody's really looking to get this, to be honest. One hit is nice. 140 armor is what, like 1% mitigation? It's not a massive ring for anybody to really look at. Iblis. This is the next big item. Iblis, Blade of the Fallen Seraph. This is your BiS weapon for a lot of humans. This is a BiS offhand. This is going to be a massive fight between rogues and warriors. Although even human warriors are looking at Hungry and Cold. So if you're a human, you can look towards giving Iblis to your warriors and prioring Hungry and Cold to your Iblis to your rogues and prioring Hungry and Cold to your warriors. That is like a good way of breaking things up. This is what your rogues want. Although technically, every rogue out there is probably thinking, oh, like Hungry and Cold, that's garbage. Why would I ever need that sword skill on my human rogue? The DPS differential between Iblis and Hungry and Cold and your offhand is actually extremely minimal. It's like 3 DPS. So if you end up being some sort of ridiculously lucky on Hungry and Cold drops and ridiculously unlucky on Iblis drops, you can absolutely take Hungry and Cold on your offhand. It's also BiS RP set, sort of 1,000 truths, whatever. But humans should probably prio this to rogues. We got our edgy boys that might want this. This thing is insane. Hunters can also want this. This thing is just nuts. It's mostly it's a rogue item. For Horde and non. For Horde, a lot of rogues are looking at this, but mainly looking at Hungry and Cold. This is still a DPS increase for Horde rogues, though, right? From what we're using right now. So Iblis is a 16. Here, let's go to this one. Iblis is a better offhand even than Thunder Fury if you're non-human. And it's actually with the new simming a little bit higher than Thunder Fury as humans. So it's amazing. So that should go to rogues for the most part, but you do have some warriors that are going to fight you for it. Hunters fighting for it. You might be able to get this pretty easily if your rogues don't understand how good this is, because they're all focused on Hungry and Cold. If I was a rogue, I would absolutely focus on Gressel in your main hand and Iblis in your offhand. I'm just going to say it. Over getting Hungry and Cold. But yes, Iblis is amazing. Gothic the Harvester. Moving on. The boots are incredible for rogues also, so look out for those. Polar helmet, just a little bit of frost res for the rogues. And that's really all you're looking at. Boots of Displacement is... Sadist Collar is good. Okay, so this is good, but you're losing out on 24 attack power from using Barb Choker. So as a warrior, you're missing out a bunch of attack power. You could use this as a mitigation warrior. It's a decent item, but it's not great. Boots of Displacement, pure PvP. And we've found so far most of the items that increase your effective stealth level aren't like that impressive. You're only using this against like a rogue 1v1 for the most part. That's not like a crazy thing to get. 4 Horsemen. Chest piece for rogues. This is the piece that if your warriors want this, they should take it over your rogues, because it is as a human or alliance, it's actually, as a single piece, a slight DPS decrease. The only reason you run this is because you're setting up your 8 piece bonus. That's it, right? Well, or if you were setting up your 4 piece bonus. So this is the piece that your warriors could totally take, right? It doesn't have shield block on it, so it's just pure mitigation, but it's good. 2% hit, 13 defense, and 1% dodge. This thing is pretty good. This one could absolutely be proud to the warriors over the rogues. Unfortunately for us rogue boys. Light plates of the apocalypse could honestly be prioed. I don't know how good these are for hunters, but this could be prior to warriors that don't have good gear, or rogues that don't have good gear. Feral. Your Feral is going to take this first, but you're not really too worried about that. Soul String is an item that you don't want to overlook. It's not as good as what we'll see in a second, but Soul String is pretty incredible. And this is just pure meme to your rep pallies. Patchwork. Shoulders are awesome. These shoulders here are awesome for rogues. These stats are incredible. Your rogues are looking at these. Band of Reanimation. This is absolutely going to your hunters. Your hunters are super stoked on this. Severance is technically, if you're running a two-handed build, especially if you're running a two-handed orc build, this is your best, literally your best weapon. Don't be running it. And then you've got your Frost Res shield. If you're running a two-handed build in PvE, meh. But in PvP, this thing is insane. 43 strength, 18 stamina, and 2% crit. Severance is a nutty weapon for two-hander boys. Moving on. There's nothing really too impressive. Toxin Injector is 10 stamina and 20 attack power. It's not that great DPS for, like, hunters aren't like super impressed by it. Warriors aren't super impressed by it. PvP. If you're a PvP god, look at that. For the most part. Claymore. Oh, 98 attack power. This thing is incredible also. 20 stamina, 98 attack power. PvP, dude, if you're going sword spec, this is incredible. I guess I just brushed over Corrupted Ashbringer, which is more RP and insane, and like I guess you can PvP with it. Claymore is pretty insane. Death's Bargain for your flash set, dude. Just take it. Just be the meme. Hard mitigation. You could take this. 3% block, and the block. It's just hard to see most people using hard mitigation sets, right? Plated Abomination A-Bomb Ribcage. Like I mentioned earlier, guys, Ghoul Skin Tunic is technically a slight DPS increase, but it's like 1 DPS. It's like 1 DPS. But you get literally 5% mitigation from using Plated A-Bomb. And if it doesn't matter if you're in a speedrun guild, like survivability is everything for warriors. For humans, now you guys finally see this insane item. This is your second best weapon in the entire game for human warriors. Human rogues also can absolutely look to take this, but your warriors should probably have Prio on the Cascadator, in all honesty. This is second BiS. There's only one item better, and that's Gressel. Castigator is your second BiS for humans. If you are Horde, absolutely give this to your rogues. Absolutely, right? Your rogues are looking to get this because not everybody's going to get KT weapons. Like, people are going to have to finally realize that you're not losing out on that much DPS by not having the absolute BiS, but you're having more DPS than you did in AQ. So a lot of people can go for the Castigator. And they could go like meme mace spec for PvP for the stun. Although the stun doesn't happen all too often. But it doesn't share a GCD with your normal stun. So it is pretty cool. It's not as good as it is in TBC. Now here is the next big items, right? Saffron is where a lot of god items drop. Shroud of Dominion. You are now fighting with your warriors, your rogues, your tank, kind of. You were fighting with your hunters. Your hunters want this. Your ferals. Shroud of Dominion. This is another one of those items that absolutely can go back and forth between warriors and rogues. The argument for warriors is basically that they do slightly more DPS. But actually, if you're a human, on the human side, you can just be using the Cloak off of Cthulhu. So you don't even have to worry about it. You're using Cloak of the Fallen God as a warrior. You can just use Cloak of the Fallen God. It's actually slightly better with your full world buffs. And then as a non-human, it's not that much of a difference. This isn't like a huge increase for anyone, in all honesty. It's not like a massive increase. But it probably should be proud to your rogues first over your warriors, especially on Alliance. You should probably prio this to your rogues first. Now I'm going to skip past really fast to Claw of the Frostworm. Oh, this is possibly one of the most underrated items in this entire raid. If you currently are running a Pugio in your main hand, if you were running like double Pugio, this would actually be an increase to your DPS. This thing is unreal. 71.7 DPS, 1.5 weapon speed, 8 stamina, 1 crit, 1 hit, 22 attack power. This thing is unreal. This is one of the best offhands in the game. This thing does so much damage and it is so fast and so good. Hunters can go after it also since they're over here trying to get King's Fall, and there's no way a hunter should get a King's Fall over a Dagger Rogue. So hunters could be going after it also, but warriors could be looking at this, as well as a lot of rogues. Really, you could be looking at this. Your offhand benefits from weapon skill at a less high coefficient than your main hand. Although if you have Death Sting and Pugio, if you're like a Dagger Rogue, Death Sting is still better. So know that. Humans could be looking at this. A lot of human rogues could be looking at this, and yeah, everyone could absolutely be looking at this. This thing is insane. Also for PvP, this is like a god weapon. Like this is like potentially the best offhand for PvP in the game for daggers. Now we have the Face of Death, which is insanely amazing looking. This is one of the coolest weapons or shields ever. I actually use it as transmog on retail. This thing is incredible for your mitigation set. Incredible. And then the next big item, Slayer's Crest, guys. This thing, according to Sims, like I mentioned earlier, which are undervaluing Kiss of the Spider for rogue or for warriors, this is your next best on-use trinket. In a lot of fights, you'll actually use Kiss of the Spider and Slayer's Crest if you had both, but highly doubt people will get both for a long time. Don't look to get both. For the most part, because of how well warriors scale with haste, you could prioritize Kiss of the Spider to warriors and Slayer's Crest to rogues. Like I mentioned earlier, if we look at phase 6 BiS and we look right here, where are my... Alright. Slayer's Crest is a 21.5 DPS increase. And Kiss of the Spider is about a 30 DPS increase. Has daggers and has swords. It's a lot closer. Slayer's Crest is about a 22 DPS increase. And Kiss of the Spider is only 27. So this is your next best upgrade. Although on longer fights, Mark of the Champion, on about a minute long to a minute and a half, Mark of the Champion actually ends up being almost just as good. So your on-use trinket, this is your best on-use trinket outside of Kiss of the Spider. Do not feel bad if you are going for this instead of Kiss of the Spider. A lot of people have only their eyes on Kiss of the Spider. So a lot of people will have a lot more prio there. So Slayer's Crest should be easier to get. Significantly easier to get. And then as we move on to this beautiful bad boy, luckily we have these things separated. This is the thing that most people will really underrate. Mark of the Champion. 150 attack power. This is basically having a diamond flask up at all times. Your hunters love this. Also, your rogues. Everyone is focused on these on-use trinkets. This thing on most fights is going to be just as good. You will replace your DFT. A lot of warriors don't have DFT yet, and a lot of guilds can probably stop focusing so much on doing PWL in general so that they can get Mark of the Champions. Just prio this to your warriors that don't have DFT or your rogues that don't have DFT first. Everyone does want this. This shouldn't be between rogues and warriors. This is like Slayer's Crest does see like a slight advantage towards warriors with rage generation, especially during an execute phase. If a warrior is good, they are min-maxing their usage of that item. But pretty much everyone gets this static gain from the increased attack power. And almost everything in this raid is undead. Other than 2 bosses, you're running this on every boss. And 150 attack power at all times on trash is pretty nuts. So you're switching between one of your trinkets, you're almost always switching between an on-use trinket, right? Like every speedrun, every good group, everyone is always switching between trinkets. Always. On every fight. And now you have enough on-use trinkets to always be switching. But a lot of times you have one passive trinket, although double trinket is BiS in a lot of situations, like shorter fights. And some fights, like if you're doing twin amps or something like that. Double on use sees incredible advantage. But Mark of the Champion. Everyone should be focused on getting this. The next thing. Boom. Nerubian Slave Maker. Oh, ho, ho. Here's the hard part, guys. As us melee boys, we're looking at this, just thinking to ourselves, oh my gosh, this is our BiS weapon. How can I get it? I need to get Nerubian Slave Maker. Oh no. Unfortunately for us, guys, this is massive for hunters. In all honesty, they get kind of screwed out of most things in the game. There's only going to be 2 hunters in your raid anyways. They should have prio on Nerubian Slave Maker, even if it's not like... Yeah, this is like where all hunters are super focused. This is their biggest upgrade. This is finally, we can say it, there is a hunter weapon in the game. Finally, we can say it. Hunters are looking for Nerubian Slave Maker. Melee, you are also looking at it. Yes, absolutely. This is your BiS. But it's not like an insane upgrade. Like if you're looking at warriors on DPS, you can still use Larva of the Great Worm. So like you're not worried about it. Rogues, you're over here like, give me that. You can just take Nerubian Slave Maker after your hunters get it. Don't worry. King's Fall. Hunter boys, honestly, get out of here. This thing is so good. Like, look at the DPS increase on King's Fall on rogues. 81 DPS increase from Purds, right? This is the highest DPS output weapon in the game. It's also your highest DPS offhand, technically, but it's the only item that will ever make you move Death Sting to the offhand. King's Fall is unreal good. 73.1 DPS, 16 agility is the stat. That's what's really impressive. It's not stamina like Gressil. 16 agility. You get 1 crit, 1 hit. This thing is nuts. 158 top end. Every dagger rogue is going for this. Hunters, take a step back. This should go to your dagger rogues. You may have dagger boys, like dagger tanks. If you have like a dagger tank, they could also fight for this. Rip, you know? It's like the issue of like fighting for Death Sting with your warriors, and you're sitting here like, why? Why? This is way more of an upgrade for your rogues. So if your tank makes the argument that he needs this, he's just a loot goblin. He does technically need it, but he doesn't need it nearly as much as you do. So I would say it's more of a loot goblin thing. But yes, overall mitigation helps the raid, or your tank's threat helps the raid. This should go to rogues, some warriors, then hunters eventually. Good luck, hunters. The drop rate on here says 21%, so maybe you'll see a ton of them. Gressil, Dawn of Ruin. Let's talk about that last. Might of Menethel. PvP lords want this. 46 stamina. All of you PvP lord warriors are out here just oozing, waiting to get Might of Menethel. If you're using this in actual normal raid environments, you're a meme lord. The top end is unreal. The 3.8 weapon speed, like if you have like a meme, so if you have like a ret or a enhance, yeah, they're like, oh my god, Might of Menethil. Huh. You don't say. Yes, this thing is insane. And for PvP, this thing is unreal. So a lot of people are actually looking for this. For cleave fights, this actually is pretty impressive as well, just in like a normal fight, because of how high the top end is. When you get that big whirlwind, you're like pumping. Now, the biggest 2 items in your entire raid. And yes, I can link the DPS, the spreadsheets that I'm looking at right now. One of them is just from the Fight Club. And then the Rogue one is the Rogue one that we put together. Spot helped us put together these tabs. It used to look like this, guys, which is just uglier than the tabs at the bottom that Spot put together that look a lot better. That will be linked in the description, and anyone in the stream, just exclamation point DPS and you'll find that. All right, let's talk about Hungry and Cold first. Hungry and Cold. All of your rogues, all of your non-human rogues are looking for this. And like I mentioned earlier, it's actually almost... DC. Okay. And like I mentioned earlier, it's almost just as good for your human rogues even. Like, it's... Let's look at human. Human, right? Look, it's literally almost as good as Gressel. It is. So your human rogues are actually looking at it. Yes. But they shouldn't get it over the warriors. Your human warriors are looking at it. Hungry and Cold. This lets all of your edge master wearers no longer have to wear edgies. So you could make the argument that all edgy warriors should get this, so that they can pair it with their other items, and then they get to put on Gauntlets of Annihilation, which is like a 30 to 40 DPS increase for them on top of just getting Hungry and Cold. So this is pretty massive. So there could be the argument that this should go to your Edge Masters warriors first. Your tank, your Thunder Fury tank, is looking at getting the Hungry and Cold as well. So the first Hungry and Cold is most likely going to your Thunder Fury tank. All of your rogues are trying to fight for Hungry and Cold as well. Yeah, there is the argument, or if you're not a human or an orc, that was a choice you made originally, right? And so taking the best weapons in the game, it's hard to argue. But at this point in the game, we're so late that realistically, how many of these are we going to see? A lot of guilds are probably going to be looking at getting their biggest pumpers, some of these weapons first, or just spreading them out between people that haven't gotten items in forever. And then we have, of course, so this, I would say, is probably going to your main tank first, and then it's between your rogues and your warriors. It's probably a bigger increase for your warriors over Iblis. For your rogues, even your human rogues don't need to go after this anyways. It's a hard one. Your guild has to deal with it on a case-by-case basis. I know my rogues should be looking at this. I'm looking purely at Gressel and keeping Thunder Fury as my offhand for now. A lot of rogues on Horde side, I would suggest looking towards getting Gressel and just getting Iblis. And with that in mind, Gressel, Dawn of Ruin, this is the best weapon by far in the entire game. By far. It's not even close. For everyone, for the most part. 257 top end. It is 2.7 weapon speed, 40 attack power, 15 stamina. This thing is unreal. Your human warriors should be looking at getting this over getting Hungry and Cold anyways. Everyone's probably prioring this, so I'm going to say good luck to everybody. As a rogue, you can literally get Gressel and then use Maladath if you're not human in your offhand and just chill with that until you get Iblis. You're fine. You can even go with Claw of the Frostworm. This weapon, main hands make the biggest difference, and it actually has a higher difference for rogues than warriors. So I want to say I would argue that it should go to your rogues first. but in all honesty, warriors do more damage for the most part. I think your best rogues probably should get this. All rogues are going to, for the most part, want to go sword spec in this raid because there's so much trash and stuff like that. So this is, again, case-by-case basis between rogues and warriors. And most warriors with this idea of going BiS are going for this. A lot of orc warriors could just go for the Hatchet of Sundering Bone and chill out for a while. Not in a negative way, but just wait for it. Everyone who started this game ever has had this idea of having these two weapons. So it's going to be a hard thing to go for. There's going to be a crazy amount of prio and people fighting for them. Human warriors also can just go after the maces. And I genuinely think most likely rogues may want to take this first. Most likely rogues may want to take this first, and warriors may want to take Hungry and Cold first. And then switch it up. But it's always a case-by-case basis. It depends on your guild in general. But with that, guys, that is a full guide or a full breakdown of loot prio throughout all of Naxx. Everything, pretty much every single item for melee, including hunters, but rogues and warriors, and where you should be thinking about prioing things. Everything does change between each individual guild. And also, of course, like I mentioned, I will be uploading this video to YouTube, so make sure, if you do watch this on YouTube, make sure to hit a like and subscribe. I probably will do a breakdown of all of the items for all casters, rogues, or mages, warlocks, even like your main balance druid if you have one, all healers as well. But I have to do a lot of the research there. I don't actually know all of the information on which benefits what more, so I will do all of the research on that. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you're on YouTube, much love. If you guys are here on stream, we are about to run the raid now, and we are actually memeing today. We are running Seal Fate build, and the answer before all of you ask, is Seal Fate ever better? We're going to show you.